So once again, my name is Umu. I'm the co-chair of the IMA QC student chapter. We would have partnered up with UiPath to present you with intelligent automation, accounting, and finance. Our learning objectives today is to learn and discover how robotic processing automation and artificial intelligence can change the work we do in accounting and finance for the better. In this session, we will cover 3 topics. Number 1, how does robotic processing automation impact accounting? How does artificial intelligence augment and play a vital role? And number 3, how can I develop the skill set to be relevant in the future? Our agenda today is a brief 10-minute introduction. Then number 2, we will hand it off to the UiPath team to do a real-world demonstration. And then lastly, we will have a short Q&A session. I would like to introduce you to the IMA QC Student Chapter Board for Fall 2022. We are under the supervision of the faculty advisor, Professor Jin Zhao. She's the accounting department, accounting information department. We have 8 board members. We are split into 2 parts. We have the Office of Presidency, and then we have the 3 educational committees. In the Office of Presidency, we have the President, the Vice President, the Treasurer, and the Secretary, and then our 3 educational committees. Sorry. We have the CMA/CPA exam review committee, and then we have the data analytics committee, and then we have the governmental nonprofit committee. Our mission is to grow our members not only to be the best in the world, but the best for the world. We do this by connecting and engaging our members. We attract and retain talent, and we hope to achieve a competitive advantage. We launched in the March of 2021. We have delivered over 8 events partnering with the FBI, XBRL, Becker, and UiPath. We are one of 130 IMA student chapters with 55 plus members. We have established a track record of learning outcome. IMA itself is a great learning platform with 1,000 plus courses, which helps develop leadership skills for the 20 plus student board members. Currently, in the fall of 2022, we had planned 3 events. Number 1 occurred in late September with the CPA/CMA exam review, where we provide resources and tips for the CPA/CMA exam review, the test, my fault. And then we had the second event, which is in November, where we partner with Siemens Society for Children and Family for non-for-profit accounting, reporting, and audit. And then our last event today with UiPath for intelligent automation, accounting, and finance. If you would like to join IMA and be part of the 140,000 members globally, you can follow us on LinkedIn, and where you can stay up to date with our events that we plan to host virtually and in person. On the screen, you will see how to join IMA. And yeah, so I would like to hand it off to the chair, Shashila, to present you with the UiPath team.
Yes, thank you, Mo, for giving us a brief introduction about the IMA and how you can join the IMA student chapter and develop your leadership skills. And for today's Intelligent Automation, Accounting, and Finance, we have 2 guest speakers, Uguray and Sharon Palawandram. Sorry if I mispronounce. Correct me if that's not the right pronunciations. And Alf, he's the 3 times MVP award winner, and Sharon, she's the machine learning consultant, and both of them are Ashling partners. And we have Diana Gary, she's the community marketing manager, and she's the organizer for this whole event. So I'd like to give it up to speaker for the next demonstrations. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you very much. I'd like to share my screen to get started. You know, if you guys can all see it. I don't know if you can give a thumbs up.
We can see it now.
Cool. So welcome everyone. Pleasure to meet with you virtually and having the opportunity to present you a little bit about how automation is going to impact the finance world and what are some of the opportunities both from the career perspective as well as from the task-based automation perspective, as well as AI's impact into the field. Things that you can learn from it will be very valuable during this presentation. So we have a packed agenda. Rather, we'll go with introductions, who we are, me and Sharon, and then we'll talk a little bit about who's Ashling Partners real quick. Then we'll jump into how does RPA impact finance. And then we'll talk a little bit about intelligent automation. To you, it may sound a bit weird. What is intelligent automation? So we will open up a little bit. So essentially, it is an AI plus automation becomes intelligent automation. And then we will talk a little bit about how can you develop skills to be relevant in the future. So that will include when you go into the workforce, how you can leverage AI and automation within your daily job to automate the tasks and processes that you're executing that day. So to kick things off, I'm Alp. I'm a senior solutions engineer at Ashling. And I've been doing this for a while right now, about 7 years. I started doing UiPath actually when they were a small company in Romania before they scaled up the US and then did their IPO. So I've taken some roles as a practice leader. So I manage large teams to build products and solutions and then work with customers, whether they're in finance, healthcare, or supply chain, leverage automations to essentially replicate and mimic tasks. So being very much involved with UiPath's product team as well. So I had the honor to get the 3 times UiPath MVP award. And what that means is that we work very closely with UiPath's product team and the community team. And recently I launched a podcast called Masters of Automation. So essentially I'm interviewing people who are really influencing this field. So these are CEOs, chief product officers, as well as technologists and pioneers within that field. So if you like to learn a little bit more about how do these technologies and entrepreneurs are getting into this field and creating startups of the future, feel free to check that out as well. Masters.ai. And that said, I'll hand it to Sharon to introduce herself.
Thank you, Al. Hello, everybody. Thank you again for joining our conversation on how intelligent automation impacts finance. I'm Sharon Palawandram, and I'm a machine learning consultant at Ashling Partners. And I'm from Denver, Colorado. So I do have a background on machine learning, and I've been doing that for about 7 years. I graduated with a robotics and artificial intelligence bachelor's and moved on to various industries in mechanics, in entrepreneurship, and finally ended up at Ashling Partners, which delivers a all-in-one solution approach to our customers. So essentially what we do is we deliver high value, high business value, high ROI intelligent automations for business processes, and we make companies' lives easier. And my job at Ashling Partners is to develop machine learning, production level machine learning programs and deliver them. And we use UiPath pretty intensively because it's an incredible application software where we can develop low code, no code software with ease. And that's what I'm planning to talk about today. So thank you again for having me here. Back to you, Al.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so as Sharon mentioned, right, like we use UiPath software very daily, and our customers use it daily as well. And essentially, what it does is that if you think about when you go into the workforce, there are processes that people do in finance, including invoicing, or within accounting, like purchase to pay process. Like when you order something on Amazon, how does that deliver back to you? It includes a lot of payments to the payer, a lot of payments to the buyer, as well as the supplier, and as well as the workers along the chain. So automation is involved at all levels, like at all layers. And the way UiPath sees it is that, like, essentially, you wouldn't only want to apply automation for the sake of automation. There are so many processes out there. There are so many ways to do things. And essentially, UiPath brings you the capability to standardize your process, innovate, build new products, experiences, and offerings powered by intelligent automation. So as you look at the right hand side, you will see the tree. And within the stems of the tree, RPA is one component. So RPA, what we call robotic process automation, is what mimics a user in the computer. So like the way you type, the way you move your mouse, click on screens, that's what RPA does. But along with the stack, UiPath does not only do RPA, it does low code, no code development. There's the machine learning, AI to be able to extract data from the scanned images, scanned pages, face recognition, and such. There's the advisory portion where in which Sharon mentioned very clearly that, like, for businesses, one of the most important things is ROI, right? Like if I apply this automation, when do I get my money back? So we do help them with that. And analytics and process mining is essentially the measurement of those. And those will take another 3 hours. So I will not go into them. So what do we do at Ashling Partners? We are a professional services firm that is focused on the what was called as hyper-automation technology stack. So that's essentially low-code, process mining, RPA, AI, and now so we have a large delivery team where we go to the customers and then build these solutions for them depending on their business problem. And we are very outcome-based. And what that means is that if there's a business problem such as that my invoices are never paid on time, or my vendor has been non-compliant with the way they're submitting the documentation and payments, and I'm paying a lot of compliance fees. So those sort of aspects are the business problems. They come to us, and then we will then leverage the technology stack as well as the vertical and business expertise to build the solution for them. So essentially, it's a end-to-end intelligent automation focus because we would start typically with like value understanding, right? Why do you need this? What is the business value? What if we automate this versus automate that? And how does that fit into the spectrum for your business objectives? And then we'll go into the analysis of that process and think a little bit about, okay, you take this package from point A to point B. Is it an efficient way to do this? Maybe we don't need to automate it. We may just need to change the steps of the process and introduce automation to that point C. So that's how we essentially look at it, like standardization, optimization, and automation, as well as a little bit of the strategy aspect of the business consulting. So we have something called 4 A's of Ashling. I think there are too many animations here, but so essentially, we are advisory firm, right? Like that focused on value engineering, industry focus. So in our team, we have people that focus on finance, that focus on healthcare, and then we target those industries. We do also automation. So automation is can be split into multiple components, right? There's the robotic process automation. There's the low code application building. So if you go to online right now, most of the web pages and applications are actually low code. What that means is that you don't need to type code to those applications, like mostly those drag and drop. So it's highly adopted within all the industries. We do testing and attended automation, and we'll talk about that later. Attended automation comes into play where you interact with the robot, and the robot does the task for you. There's the artificial intelligence component, and in today's discussion, we will particularly dive into more or than less document understanding, which is the computer vision and optical character recognition, which extracts data from papers, which is going to be a huge thing. And then there's the machine learning, MLOps, and natural language processing aspects of it as well. From the analytics side, right, like when you have the robots doing your tasks, when you are doing your own tasks, everything is kind of captured in the computers. So we use analytics to measure how efficient the robot is doing the task that you want to do, and then report that back to the business, be able to better understand the ROI metrics. So we go way back with UiPath. So we are a UiPath Diamond partner, and only 0.5% of US partners have this certification and partnership tier. We also won the Partner of the Year award 3 years in a row within Americas, and this year in 2022, we won the Worldwide award as well for the Growth products, which includes AI. And we are also being able to apply all the UiPath product stack. So from document understanding to AI to low-code apps to RPA. We're also a global company, right? Like we are completely remote. I'm myself remote, right? I'm based in Boston, but I have family in Paris, so sometimes I go to Paris, and then we have similar people at the company who are able to leverage the remote working aspect of things as well. But we do also have offices in America and Europe. So it's a global company, and obviously, if you're interested when you graduate, feel free to send us a message. Be allowed to talk more. So there are many processes in the world. This is just a glimpse, but essentially, if you look at the left-hand side of the circle, right, you see purchase to pay. The purchase to pay process will come into effect, especially in finance a lot, right? Because that's essentially when you go pay for something, how does that vendor pays back their supplier? So it's a very large amount process, but if you look at from automation lens, it's only a very small component. So there is the supply chain management, inventory management, order to cash, claims management, customer service, contact centers. So the automation's impact is really wide. And in each category, there are certain metrics we look for as we are applying automation. So if you think about a little bit of inventory turnover, or spend versus revenue, or lead times in your process, or maybe invoices that are not paid. So all those will be within an organization measured by the leaders, and then that will essentially bring the health of the company. So all the companies that you see around the world, if I point to a few of the tech ones like Amazon, for example, or Google's of the world, they do have very highly efficient and automated processes. If you look at the finance section now, to accounts payable, accounts receivable, treasury management, financial reporting, HR, a lot of those tasks and the processes are automated. And not only by automating the task, like you click there, navigate to this screen, extract data, it is automated with AI, right? Like an AI will be extracting data from your resume when you apply to a job, or AI will be extracting data from your ID when you go to a background check process. So in all of those cases, AI plays a very important role, and that is measured significantly by that company. So before we dive into a little bit of the technical aspects of it, it's very important they understand that it's already around us, it's already happening, and it's happening by the very successful companies in the world. And as the more startups and then the more companies adopt these technologies, then it's going to be the standard, and we see it to be the standard already. So that said, I will pass to Sharon to get started.
Thank you, Alp. I was thinking about the adaptation that you were talking about. And if you see this chart, the next one, oh, sorry, this one, you would see that this is a McKinsey graph on the adaptation and profit margins on different sectors. So we live in a world of big data. So big data means all the information that you can get in a company, including the metadata of a component and the, the core data and the information that we gather in a company. So we see these institutions acquire more data than ever before. However, we know that about 1% of these organizational data is ever used, let alone inform any meaningful making. So Business Insider has a quote that says that firms that are big data and cloud service users report their strategic posture towards AI to be disrupting industries using AI technology at the core of their strategy. So this graph shows the operating profit margin for the selected sectors as a share of turnover for continuing operations. And this same pattern is apparent when we analyze expectations for profit margins. So what does this entail? So this graph and McKinsey shows that early adopters who with proactive strategies report their current profit margins that are 3 to 15 percentage points higher than the industry average in most sectors. And they expect this advantage to grow in the future. So it's a known fact in the industry that early adopters in AI technologies see their revenue growth 3 to 15% in the next 5 to 10 to 15 years. And this increment is only going to keep increasing over the next years. So there's a real value arbitrage in implementing artificial intelligence into your business process. And this could bring high value, even as a finance student, to learn on the impact on AI. Next slide. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the applications of machine learning. So what is machine learning, first of all? Machine learning is a subfield of artificial intelligence, which is broadly defined as the capability of a machine to imitate intelligent human behavior. Machine learning is based on algorithms that can learn from data without relying on rule-based programming. Now, if you're a software engineer, you would develop hard and fast programs that would, follow a computational thinking execution. But the idea of machine learning is where we implement that computational thinking algorithm itself to identify patterns without being executively coded into it. So if we see this application cycle in this chart, you'd see that we have a diverse use case scenario where we could use machine learning for detection, recognition, and forecasting, recommendation, and transformation, and stuff like that. We can also use processes that Alp mentioned before, natural language processing, computer vision, OCR technologies to, enhance our business processes. And I'll talk about UiPath in just a bit, but I just want to emphasize that UiPath does an excellent job when it comes to natural language processing and computer vision. And a little bit of example on what NLP is. So when, for example, we have an invoice, which we need to find data points such as vendor name, vendor, maybe invoice date, total invoice amount, and if it was taxed, or do you have sales tax, or do you have any other taxes? So those are all, we consider them as data. And what natural language processing does is it extracts all the information out of a document. And with the NLP algorithm, we find what those data points are, given that they could be anywhere in the page. And the NLP technology would find out where those data points are without being, executively trained and coded. So the next slide. Awesome. So a little bit of the ecosystem of machine learning. We have three segments of learning that we do. And the first one comes as a supervised learning. So what is supervised learning and why is it important? So in real world use cases, we have scenarios where we know the answer. For example, it would be a forecasting where we need to find the daily sales of a store. So we know the sales that happened for the last X amount of years, and we want to predict the sales that's going to happen in the future Y amount of years. So that is a situation of supervised learning. And here we say, if we know a straight line formula, y equals mx plus c, where we know y and we know all the elements that comes in the equation, we can use that to find the future values of y. So that's how we implement the same simple concept into as a machine learning algorithm. And we find out, forecasting. You can, in finance, forecasting is a big thing where you can predict, stock values, you can predict market patterns. So you do all of those using a supervised learning algorithm. So what's unsupervised learning? So there are instances where you do not know the answer. You don't know, what's going to happen. You don't know what the segmentations are. So if you can see, there are some examples here called, recommendation systems, targeted marketing. These would be based on, underlying structures, and you find the similarity within. For example, they've given two images of a car. Are they similar or not? So those are type of algorithms can be derived from unsupervised learning. And then when we go to reinforcement learning, so the name speaks for itself, that you reinforce the learning over a finite period of time. And this is done, when we have self-driving cars and you want to navigate. How that's been done is the robot or the automation is constantly learning, and it has a continuous learning cycle where it gets the information, changes the algorithm, and learns. So these are the three core concepts on the types of machine learning that we have. Thank you. So how does an automation assist you? So let's see this chart. You see on the left side, you have, a process where we collect forms from Salesforce. We collect, go-to-market assets. We complete a questionnaire and we submit a questionnaire. So we consider this whole steps as a process in a business. And how do we automate that? If you go to the right side of it, you see we collect forms in Salesforce and we collect those go-to-market assets, but the complete questionnaire and the submitting questionnaire are automated. So this gives, you don't have to go and, see each questionnaire and if it's done or completed. So this is one of the simple concepts on how you automate a process.
And just to quickly add here too, you may be interacting with multiple applications here. So like you collect the form on Salesforce as you would do in someone's job, right? Like you go Salesforce, download some stuff, and then you go to Google Chrome, navigate some screens, click there and there. So essentially this automates that. And it doesn't really automate 100%, it automates 50%. So you can see that, like, let's say you have, you're going to do an accounts payable or an accounting type of a thing. with one of in a company, you can easily see that some of the tasks can be repetitive and mundane. So essentially, you can automate those repetitive tasks, but have the robot work for you, and you can do some of the answering to the questions and such. So it really depends on how automation works with you as you're executing your tasks. Back to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Al. And as you move forward, you will see UiPath has a human in the loop called Action Center. So when we have human tasks in a process, UiPath has a human in the loop Action Center where a human can go either validate it or review it or make changes, and that would kick back to the automation. So it will be a collaborative environment, just like the previous slide said, where the humans and the robots collaborate to deliver a process. So here, let's talk about where we leverage AI. So you can see here a wage statement, and you can see there are some data points highlighted. You see the policyholder, and you see some handwritten text that has, from, to, year, and the total amounts and the dates. So we can use this is a classic document understanding example where you can use OCR technology to extract even handwritten documents at a very good extraction accuracy. So what it would do essentially is it would deliver a field where it would give you the policyholder's name, it would give you the total, it would give you the date, and it would give you a table with the assigned values from, to, year, the value, and all of that as a table. So this is pretty amazing because you won't have to spend so much time going through all the rows in this table. There are about 26 rows here. So what happens here is it would extract everything. And if the confidence score of this extraction is low, we can add a situation saying, hey, if the model doesn't capture it, you can always kick it into a human in the loop validation. Next slide, please. Awesome. So just we gave you a bit of what UiPath does, what document understanding is. Now let's take a dive into what RPA is. The robotic process automation is, what UiPath does, and what the whole technology of, automating a process and developing a no-code functionality to develop that. So what are the business benefits of RPA? So when we see accelerated transformation, you see businesses using RPA to transform their businesses and to, have a high growth, high optimized solution. So Gartner, Gartner Technologies, they put UiPath as a leader in the automation space. So UiPath has given a lot of high deliverables in automation. So this gives a company a competitive advantage in greater resilience, where you can use the RPA technology to ramp up and match workloads, improved compliances, boosted productivity, high accuracy, cost savings, which is a major factor in a company, and more value from the process, and higher ROI, as we consistently spoke about, and happier employees, because the final core benefit of RPA would be where employees stop doing repetitive tasks and invest their time more into innovation and finding newer and innovative ways for business growth. Next slide. So how does machine learning relate to RPA and intelligent automation? So like I previously told you, machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence, which is a catalyst inside in the intelligent automation space. So it delivers a high long-term value where you can, assign accurate probabilities in and to high events, and you can predict trends and forecast, and you can identify underlying patterns, and this gives a fast chart to market. Next slide. So what is document understanding? So if you see the chart to the left of you, you see RPA, you see AI, and you see document processing. So document understanding is a collaboration of all three perspectives. And it emerges as an intersection of RPA, document processing, and artificial intelligence. I want to emphasize that document understanding is not OCR and it's not computer vision, but document understanding has the components of OCR and computer vision within it. It also has the components of, many algorithms like NLP, deep learning technologies, which we will talk a little bit later. But it's a big umbrella which has all these components under it. So let's look at an anatomy of a DU model. So if you're a developer and this is the first strategy that you will use to develop a document understanding model. So let's talk about this a little bit. And we have to start the load taxonomy. So let me give you a little insight on what it is. So let's say we are developing a automation to extract a document understanding model, and we need to extract an invoice, right? So how do we code this? How do we work this? We previously spoke about UiPath being a low-code, no-code environment, which is exactly what it is. So if we take an invoice, what we are going to do is we are going to define the data points that we need to extract. So let's say, for example, you want to extract the vendor name, the vendor date, invoice number, and maybe the freight number. So you define all of them in the taxonomy. So we define what fields, what columns, what tables that we need to extract in taxonomy. This is like telling the model, hey, this is what I need to extract, keep an eye on it. So next we go to digitize. So what the digitization does is, digitization uses OCR, which is an optical character recognition, to identify all elements and characters in a document. So let's say your invoice is maybe 2 pages or 3 pages. So what it does is it's going to extract all of the fields, like all of the data points in that invoice, and store it in a repository for later use. So next we go into classification. Say your invoice has 2 documents in one invoice, maybe the 2 or 3 pages. One was an invoice, one was a W-2 form, I-9 form. So what you can do is UiPath provides you to easily classify them within a document or within different documents. So you can, over time, you can, train them, you can validate them. When we say validate, we talk about the human in the loop, where a human can go and validate if this is the correct classification of the document. And it will throw it back to an ML model, which will train it to remember it for future uses. So once that is done, it goes into extraction. So this is where all the elements that we talked about before are getting into use. You remember taxonomy, where we initially spoke about, hey, I need to get these fields, remember them. And then the digitization result that we put into a repository, that is also taken into extraction. So what happens in extraction? Extraction is where the machine learning model comes into play. So we have the machine learning model, we have the taxonomy and the digitization. So what the ML model does is it looks into the taxonomy and it looks into the digitization, and it knows what it needs to extract because we have trained it. So what it does is it looks at the digitization document and it finds the fields that we defined in taxonomy. So once that's done, we do have a document with all the fields that we have needed, and it gets exported. So that cycle is pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And that's how essentially a document understanding model works. So if you have any questions, please do add them in the chat, because this is new to you and you might have any questions. So I'm happy to help you with that. So let's move on to the next one, where we talk about the types of documents and their processing. So all this time I was giving you examples on invoices and documents, but what are the capabilities of, what is the parameter of documents that we can extract? So here we target them into 3 categories, where we talk about structured documents, semi-structured, and unstructured. So what is a structured document? So structured documents are the ones that we know what the layout is all the time. So if you look at your W-2, if you look at your tax returns, if you look at I-9 forms, they are always going to be the same. So they are known as structured documents. And with structured documents, it gets pretty straightforward because you don't have any place to find, you know where you need to find. So that we have a rule-based approach. And let's talk about the semi-structured documents. So when we come to semi-structured documents, we're talking about, bank statements, which could vary with different banks. Banks have different styles. Invoices, different companies have different structures of invoices, bills, and all of that. So the difference is we know that the fields that we want to extract is in that document, but the location of that could change and the structure of that could change. So we could call that semi-structured. And the third is the unstructured documents, where you see prescription, news, emails, and all of that, which has no defined structure in that document. So this is a really good example of machine learning, because machine learning has a model-based approach where we develop a model for pretty unstructured or semi-structured documents. And that would be a really good example to use a machine learning algorithm, because that's what ML is meant to do. So a little bit of a deep dive into what UiPath offers. So UiPath has rule-based and model-based extractors in extracting data. So as we spoke about, if it's a structured document like a W-2 form, we have regular expressions-based extractor. That's what we call regex. We have form and intelligent form extractors, which can extract structured documents. It can extract handwriting text. It can extract signatures if they're there or not. It can extract checkboxes. So this is pretty important because all these times these have been repetitive tasks, and UiPath has a high feasibility approach on providing these extractors to extract them pretty easily. And when we come to semi-structured, unstructured documents where we don't exactly know where it is, we use the machine learning extractor, which finds out where the data points are, and it does a pretty good job. Giving you a real world example, I had to develop an automation for a company that had a document with 2,000 structures. So it was a unstructured document, and we had 2,000 plus variations, and we had to extract about 80 fields in one document, which was a pretty insane task, even in machine learning, because it's pretty high volume, and you get about 10,000 files each day, and the company was using about a 300-person task force across US and across Europe to, manually validate them. So what we did was we reduced their, work task by 80% with this automation, where we developed a machine learning model which extracted 80 fields in each page, and it delivered an excellent model which had, the business team giving high regards because it made their ROI increase by 80%. So, that was a case where we used machine learning because machine learning was able to, accurately extract 80 fields per page, and it did 10,000 times per day for 30 days. It was nonstop, unlike a human where it works for 8 days and it takes the weekends off. But the machine works 30 days, 24 hours, which was pretty amazing for the business. So giving you that, let's go into the document understanding ecosystem. So I've talked about these models, the machine learning and the rule-based model. So just to give you a synopsis of it, is UiPath has machine learning and rule-based models, like we talked about, intelligent form, regular expressions, out-of-the-box models. And when we come into machine learning models, we come into, these are the 4 parts that machine learning models has inside UiPath. And I'll show you this in the next slide. But for now, ML models can be customized. If we go into the deep root of what an ML model is, just remove another layer of the peel, or if we consider it as an onion, just removing another layer, you see, custom ML models, out-of-the-box ML models, open source ML models, and Forms AI. So what are these? Let's play this slide. Alp, will you be able to play this? Okay, awesome. So this is what UiPath AI Center looks like. You see here that you see out-of-the-box models, which means that the model is already trained and ready to go. So you don't need to do any coding, you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is you need to select what model you need to go for. Now you can see here, there are a lot of models that are available. You see bank statements, document understanding, different forms like 1040, I-9, checks, document classifier. So what this is essentially, this is a plug and play where you can simply go into AI Center. You can select what you need to extract. Say, for example, you need to extract checks. You can simply go into document understanding and you can click a out-of-the-box model. You can click checks, and that would be essentially it. Your model is done and prepared. This is pretty easy compared to traditional machine learning, where you need to develop an algorithm, you need to test it, you need to find which algorithm is best, you need to find which features are best. So UiPath has done it all. And all you have to do is you just need to select a package and get go from it, and your model is ready to go. So yeah, that's about it. And you see so many invoices. I think there would be about, close to 100 packages that you have. And you can sign up in UiPath, and you can play around with this. You can implement it as well. And they have a free community edition where you can play around with machine learning models and see for yourself. So let's see an example on how we use an ML application from Forms AI. Alp, I think it's on mute. Thank you. Alp, I think it's still on mute, right? Oh.
Can you all hear it?
I can't.
No? Okay. We can just narrate it ourselves, maybe.
Okay.
Do you want to narrate it, Sharon?
Yeah, if you could make it a little bit big and play it from the beginning. Say, okay. So this is a Forms AI, no code AI for document understanding. If you'd see, Alp, I think we can make the screen a little bit big because I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to give, you can just, I think on the top right, you can make it big.
Let's just use the.
Yeah, thank you.
No worries. All right.
Awesome, thank you. So this is a no-code Forms AI model. Forms AI is a no-code technology that UiPath has introduced, where you have to do, no code-based execution. But what you have to do is you have to train a model using whatever particular structured document that you need to do. So when we go here into the document understanding space, you see you can easily upload a couple of documents. And let's see what happens here. Go here. Awesome. So this is a sales order form. So, and this is a Forms AI space. So if you go into the community edition, you can access Forms AI and you can test this for yourself. And you can see that since this is a structured document, they hit predict and automatically it extracted all the fields that you needed. And all you had to do was you had to trim it into what fields that you need and what fields that you don't. Alp, is there a way we could increase the quality of it? I'm sorry.
I think it's just the transmission.
Okay,
It's,
awesome.
yeah. Yep.
I'll share the link of the video so you can go and see it for yourself in the chat. So yeah. So you can see here that they, try to see what fields that we need and what fields that they don't. And you can see how the table was extracted so seamlessly, because if you do this manually, it would take you tons and tons of time. But since you hit predict, you just have a table defined, you just have fields defined. All you need to do is you need to trim it, and you need to remove whatever points that you don't need and whatever points that you need. So this compiles into a model which you can use in the automation, which means if a sales order form comes in, it will, extract just like this, and it will remove the fields that we don't need because we have trained it to. And it would execute an output with the fields and the tables as shown in this document. So it is that easy to use UiPath to execute a machine learning model. So there you go. And I'll share this with you if you want to look back at it again. So Al, before I hand it over to you, I've got a couple of questions in the chat. The first one being, how do we input data in enterprise software? So do we still need a robot? So data entry into a software is also part of the RPA automation. So it's the broader branch of RPA, which falls out of document understanding. But what essentially happens is if a document is extracted and we deliver an output, we can deliver outputs in whatever formats that they need, like to Word, Excel, CSV, parse it into JSON, whatever. So what you can do is what the robot actually does is it picks up the extraction and it goes into the software. It could be, Salesforce, it could be AWS, any resource, and UiPath has compatibility with almost all softwares. And what the robot does is it would navigate the fields using computer vision to identify, what's the login credential, where is the, username, where to find the password. It would type it and it would, enter the data into an enterprise software. So yes, that part of the process is also automated into UiPath. So there are a couple of more questions. Let me just read it.
You can leave them towards the end if you like, and then do them the Q&A portion.
Yeah,
I
sure,
think
sure,
that could
absolutely,
to do that.
absolutely. So thank you all, and I'll hand it over back to you, Al.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sharon, for the presentation. So little bit talking about the carriers portion of these things, right? Like you learn about RPA, you learn about document understanding, you learn about AI, how RPA and AI works, and how does it relate to an enterprise processes. And so the biggest question is now, what is your place in this evolving and changing world order? And how you can still be part of it, and how you can develop digital skill sets as you are embarking on your journeys. It's quite important because we work with people who have never written any software or never actually go beyond Microsoft Excel or Notepad, and then they at their age 50 to 60s, they're able to pick up skill sets of RPA and then start automating the mundane tasks within their jobs. So it's so there's the barrier to entry is low. However, as you are learning more about the automation resilience, and the robustness and the quality becomes one of the greatest things, right? Like, and I've seen one question coming up about how does the companies use it, and I'll cover that in shortly. And essentially, the companies want resilience, and then companies want people with different skill sets come together and work on these automation solutions. So we will have RPA developers. So RPA developers are essentially for building these robots in terms of automating the mundane tasks. So like extracting data from application or navigating within an application. Whereas the business analyst will work with the customer on developing what we call as a PDD. It's called a process definition document, and then build as is process maps. So they work with the customer to collect requirements, to collect and understand how does the process executed today, and how we can make it better for tomorrow. The solution architects take on more roles of a technical infrastructure engineer. So like they understand is this process, they understand application layers, and then this is where their role becomes really important, because a lot of the data where we interact with finance or healthcare clients cannot leave their system. So they typically opt in for an on-premises solution rather than a cloud solution. So RPA supports on-prem solution, and then solution architects essentially build that application layers, how we can function it on-prem and cloud, and how the entire design of the automation can work and scale to many different people. So we emphasize that you can use it for you, but when an enterprise uses it, there are thousands of people who leverages this automation. So essentially, the scalability of it is one of the most important aspects of it. So if you think about the citizen developers are exactly the people I just mentioned earlier, that like maybe they're more towards the end of their careers, or they did not develop the digital skill set like software engineering, AI, and such, they'd be able to use a more low-code interface to be able to automate the tasks that they have. So that's a topic of its own, but it's a really helps automation to be democratized and accessed by everyone. So how does the market grow and what are the prospects? Like, so this space is called future of work. So it's not only called automation. The future of work, essentially, how does the work will be different tomorrow than today? So we don't have today carpenters, or we don't have people who are working in and maybe stations building cars with their hands, right? Like it's mostly automated. So similarly, the jobs tomorrow and then the day after will be different. And how can you now adopt these digital skill sets to do what you do today better tomorrow? So the market size is growing significantly. So we have 32.8% over the forecasted revenue, and then the industry is worth about $13.74 billion. So it's an exponential growth, and all the people are jumping into this field to be able to automate tasks and processes. We see also 84% of employers set to rapidly digitize working processes. So what does that mean is that the companies who are already well established are looking at their processes and then figuring out how they can transform it. So some calls it digital transformation as well, but again, this ties into the same branch. We've done a state of the RPA developer report. So essentially to the people who are building these automations, and a report and a questionnaire is sent to them to collect their feedback. And 50% of our paid developers were creating automation for the highest led industry of finance and banking. So this is really important because if you think about the entire market, 50% of the developers are kind of focused on finance roles. So it's you probably heard of the term fintech, right? Like fintech is essentially you impacting the finance role with digital applications and such, but from the process layer of digitizing the processes and digitizing how people execute tasks through whether low-code interfaces, whether through automation, is going to be huge. It's a quite well-paying job. And again, it varies by company, it varies by location, and it varies by seniority. But however, like in average, like you would expect that maybe around 100K per year starting salary. And some starting salaries are lower than that as well. And then different companies pay differently too. So this is not only for consultants. Like if you go into Google and then look, or Indeed.com and then type in RPA developer, or maybe on LinkedIn too, you will find that even the most innovative companies are hiring for RPA developers, and also most non-innovative companies are hiring RPA developers as well. So there are a lot of jobs within that field. And then there are 7,000 plus unique jobs posted in the US. So it's a global role, typically remote, depending on what function you are. So I've seen that some government-related customers would like you to be on site more often than not. So it varies again by roles. However, as you're embarked on a journey in finance, and acquiring digital skill sets will be really key to be more valuable in future. So here's a quick overview. I'll jump this quickly. So almost 97% have the career satisfaction, because you essentially deal with technologies of the future. It has positive impact on career as well. So most of the skill sets are transferable. It's valued by the company. So you know that as you're building automations, as you're working with the enterprise, you'll be able to change what they do today. So you see at first hand people's lives change. Like in some of my projects at the time, I've seen some people were doing something so repetitive and so mundane that they were very bored out of it, but it was also 40% of their job and they had to do it. So essentially taking and removing that 40% gives them capacity to do something else, maybe focus on more creative tasks, or maybe reinvest in time with themselves by learning new skill sets. So the people impact and social impact of it is huge. It's a very diverse field, and people with many different backgrounds, different genders, and it's very high diversity. It's a big industry growth, as we mentioned as well. 90% of the RP industry is growing at a rate of 90%, and then has a high potential growth for over the next 5 years. So it's definitely something to think about. So UiPath has a academic alliance program. So this just covers a few of the logos, but we do work with many schools, and many of the schools are looking at adopting these skill sets, and then be able to, as they go to the job market, have the right digital skill set to be able to change the enterprises they join, or maybe embark on entrepreneurial journeys that will also align really well with automation and AI fields. So that was the last slide. So I think now I'll stop here, and then we can go to Q&A and a little bit talk about it. So I see, then we can take it maybe one by one, but I see like, how is RPA created? So RPA goes way back, actually the 1990s. So there was an initial, I think the first company that did it was called Blue Prism, but now obviously they rebranded and did an IPO in London. Then UiPath started in Romania, and UiPath's co-founder, Daniel Dines, was an ex-Microsoft employee, and then he was building a lot of applications to interact with different systems. So you will see when you join the workforce, you will notice there are so many applications people use for everything. And those applications typically don't talk to each other. So you may have a Salesforce, somebody using Salesforce, and then you may see somebody using HubSpot, you may see somebody using Oracle, and it's this very disparate system. So he essentially thought about building a UI automation solution, and then got started that way, and then integrate those systems together, and essentially notice that all industries and all companies need something like this. Let me see, if RPA can be deployed to marine mammal training, we can train SEAL to track submarines, US Marine and Navy, the UiPath customer. So now the US government is actually a customer, and actually UiPath's chief marketing officer used to be a government official as well. So it's they do have do a lot of projects with that, but again, as with all things with government, they're confidential. You can see some of the customer success stories online, so we can share them after the call. If you go uipath.com and say customer success stories government, you can bring a lot of things. We have one of the other UiPath MVPs actually build a automation to track down his plants. So he has many plants at home, and he's a gardener. So he built RPA to monitor all the plants and give right amount of water and ingredients to each of them. So definitely marine and mammal industry is something that RPA can integrate into, and there are use cases out there. Risk management concerns. So if you have RPA, I mean, it's not very, it's a little ambiguous question, but if I open up to it, it's essentially, yes, there's a risk management. The risk is when the robot crash, right? Nothing works 100%. So there's a lot of maintenance and resilience aspect of it involved to be able to look at the robots and then the automations and fix them. So we do typically emphasize that like you would have 30% exception rates, and depending on the process and with document understanding, if the document is really ugly, super unstructured, then you potentially expect 60% exception rate. So it really depends on that, and we do execute a risk management strategy to be able to, okay, if nobody can do it, if automation can't do it, how can we bubble it up to an individual to take that process, take that document and refill it so that the bot picks it up and continues it. In terms of accuracy, is human review required? Sometimes. So in some documents, you can get 99% extraction, but sometimes you will find that somebody's social security number wasn't able to be extracted, or somebody's signature, and you will know the doctors as well, is pretty ugly. So the automation can extract that. In those cases, yes, human review is required, and we do integrate that with the process, and that's what human in the loop is called. So Sharon shared that in the previous slides. So automation can do it from A to Z, but maybe C requires somebody to review it. Let me go over. Do we have more time? Just want to be respectful of everyone's time. We do have our time, right?
Yes.
Okay. What are challenges that your clients might encounter with implementing AI or RPA into their day-to-day? So the challenges can vary. So there's the technical and business challenges. In RPA, you can see some people can be resilient to change. So in some processes I've been executing for over 50 years, and you may not know that some people who are executing those tasks and processes don't want to change their job. So that's essentially one area where you would find yourself interacting with those people to be able to be more open-minded, open thinking, and adopt new skills and to learn more. But this would, I would say, maybe 10 to 15% of the interactivity. And in other cases, the challenges we interact are application related. Some applications are really annoying to deal with, and some are not. So it can vary by that. And so those are I would say, two things that you would encounter more than the others. Structuring of the data is the thing that makes UI different from Excel, right? So yes, Excel is structured data. So if you look at a paper that is completely messed up, when document understanding reads it, it does structure it. So it's what we call as a data table, right? And Microsoft Excel is structured with data tables with cells, where as document understanding, when it extracts these data points, it does put it in a data table, and typically can extract it into a Microsoft Excel document. So it varies, but yes, it does structure the data at the end of the output. And I can take one last question. How can government and NFT organizations use RPA and AI to improve its accounting and financial reporting process? Are there any special software features catered to them? So as you interact with many customers, you will notice that all of them have special software catered to them, and some of them, some startup or some enterprise build a solution for them, and some of them are legacy application that they build for themselves. And typically government builds applications for themselves internally. But the good part of RPA and the promise of RPA is essentially that it can connect those different disparate application systems together. So when we go to those customers, we do analyze how those applications are structured, who's using them, how can we access to them, how can we interact with them, UI or with APIs. And depending on that, we do introduce automation. So that's one aspect of it. And yes, for financial reporting and accounting is actually top 3 areas we interact with. with government and for any enterprise, from healthcare to supply chain to manufacturing, right? Like everyone has an invoice and everyone is looking at these documents to extract data. So that said, I'll wrap up here and conclude it. Thank you very much for having us today and having the opportunity to share with you a little bit what we do and what we think the future holds. And I hope you find this session valuable and it provided you with some insights about what you're studying today and what you're thinking about future. Feel free to shoot us a message if you have any question. And thank you very much. I said I'll hand it back to Diana or Sheila.
Yes, thank you, Al, and thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Diana, for putting this wonderful event for our students of Queen's College. And like also, I'd like to thank Professor Zhao for connecting us, a student with the UiPath team members. And I'd also like to thank the audience for like participations, and thanks to Vice Chair Umul. And also I wanna declare that today's whatever information is shared is based on like UiPath speakers. So so just be mindful of the information that was shared today. And also thanks to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.